Okay, so now let me tell you one of my most well, I know medically when we say these things are interesting, people don't like to hear it, but medically alarming warm situation. So there was this boy. I mean, I came into work in the morning, skipping as usual, and I arrived at work, and then they said that, oh, we have a new admission, and I was like, okay, so what's the matter with the child? And they tell me, he's throwing up worms. Oh, I'm like, what?
Ma?
What? I'm like, you've got to be joking. And so, as if the one waited for me to come, say, oh, he hasn't thrown one up since yesterday. As I arrived, I just saw him bent over doing something that looked like spaghetti. Just came out of his mouth. Flopped. Yes, and it was moving. And it's not spaghetti. This is not pasta. Pasta, they call it yo. So as soon as I saw the thing wriggling like this, of course I didn't run, even though it was a kid that called to me. But of course we had to scoop it up into a bottle containing, some preservative for testing to identify what the organism was, and we did, and we treated, and the boy got better and went home. So that is just one of the manifestations in which.
I'm sorry, you don't get to tell that story like that.
What
did you? I don't understand.
What did you do?
I'm not the mother of the child, but I want to know what happened. So
okay.
What was it? Were they actually worms?
So yes, he had quite a high worm burden in his tummy, and we gave anti-worming medication, but rather slowly, because what happens is that if a child or an individual has a large amount of worms in their tummy, you want to gradually decongest or kill the worms, because if a lot of worms die at the same time, then they stop moving, and it causes what we call an intestinal obstruction, such that there will be so many dead worms, and the worms will prevent anything else from moving through the intestine. And so we had to do it in a gradual sort of fashion, and so eventually he got better and he went home.
So what caused? Because you were alarmed that he was vomiting worms. So it's unusual to actually vomit worms. So at what point did it degenerate to that the worms had to start coming out of his mouth?
Okay, so it's unfortunately the problem is that with worms, because the symptoms really are kind of non-specific, in the sense that the person might have some kind of abdominal cramp, some abdominal pain, and sometimes if you give things like Mismag or give things like pain relief medication like paracetamol, it might relieve the person for a while. And you see, we keep on emphasizing health-seeking behavior here in this part of the world. People actually don't come to the hospital on time, such that I'm sure that by the time she came to the hospital, the reason why she came to the hospital really was the fact that the child was vomiting the worms. So it wasn't like as if there was anything that she felt was alarming enough to bring her to the hospital. So the first manifestation that the boy probably had worms was the fact that he was vomiting it. But let me just say that that's the rare, that isn't the common presentation or scenario when it comes to worms.
But it happened.
Yeah, but it happened. But it happened, which is quite alarming, and nobody ever wants to get to that point.
Yeah. Okay. So
precisely. Worms essentially the disease or worm infestation is a disease of lower income countries that have things like poor sanitation, poverty, a lack of good housing, a lack of access to clean water, a lack of access to generally a healthy environment. So the commonest worms, which are the roundworms, and so that would be Ascaris lumbricoides, and you have to put some respect on those people because they are named the same way my daily renadier today, they have their name.
It's okay, I will stay with worms. Continue.
Ascaris lumbricoides.
It's alright.
And Trichuris trichiora. So those are the commoner roundworms that infest human beings, and those worms are acquired or are contracted through the consumption of food or soil that is contaminated with these worms. So essentially, these worms in their life cycle, they end up passing their eggs in the feces into the soil. And so if there is some sort of soil that has been contaminated with human feces, or some people have used human feces, which shouldn't be done. Human feces to do fertilizer, and then fruit is grown in that soil, and these eggs are very hardy. And they stay for a while. And then somebody just goes, carrot, and then it turns out that the eggs are consumed by the person, and the person goes home. He pulls in the shalanger, or he pulls in the chase me, I slap you, and then cleans his bum up, has a little bit of poo, on the under of his nail, doesn't wash his hand, and then goes to feed the baby amala, or feed the child okele, amala, and then the poo from under his nail containing the eggs of the Ascaris lumbricoides is going to enter into the baby, and the eggs are going to hatch inside that child, and they're going to become full-grown adult worms.
No, I don't understand. Let me take you back a bit.
Yes.
So yes, we got the part of the carrots, that came from the soil that was manured with poo, and then the carrot is ingested, and then this same person who ingested the carrot poos. So at the point where the carrot was ingested, the egg was already inside. But the egg did not hatch at that time.
No. The egg would do. Sorry, I jumped that step. So the egg would have hatched inside the person. There would have been a full life cycle, and the new eggs would have been produced by that adult that ate the contaminated carrots. So meaning that adult that ate the contaminated carrots will also start to shed eggs as well.
I want to scratch my neck.
I'll join you. Let me join you.
So we're talking about washing a bum, and then it gets into the fingers, and then you use that same hand to feed a toddler.
Yes.
That's a problem.
That's a problem. And sometimes, people with all sense of credit to some people, they do try to wash their hands, but just
Narration, sure. That's why COVID taught us that we should wash our hands at least for at least 20 seconds.
And then they just end up and that's all. But that doesn't get rid of the eggs or the feces under the nail. So essentially, if you have a worm infestation, you chop shit. That's daytime television, daytime radio. Sorry, if you have a worm infestation, it most likely means that you ate poo some way or the other, or ate poo or egg contained something that had something to do.
Is it only through poo?
No, so the commonest ones are through poo. However, there are some that will directly penetrate through your legs, especially if you wade in particular kinds of water or certain bodies of water. Exactly. So the hookworms will actually penetrate through the skin directly. Also some they call them filarial worms, the ones that cause bleeding, cause guys to pee. So in some parts of Badagry, there's a worm. Oh gosh, this thing has jumped right out of my head. Anyway, but I remember the name. There's a worm that's the infestation is so common that it affects the bladder, and it makes boys to actually pee, men, everyone really, to pee blood, such that it was so prevalent that it became a rite of passage, so that if you didn't pee blood, are you really a member of this community? Are you really a member of this community? Such that, it was that, oh gosh, what's wrong with this, my head? Lagos traffic, eh?
Don't worry,
it will come back, yes, it will come.
See what you did there. Well done.
It's just an overexcited thing. It's okay. Let's go on.
So it's not always through soil contamination. Sometimes there's direct penetration through the skin. Sometimes it's consumption of poorly or improperly cooked food, like beef. So, for instance, the eggs of the tapeworm actually live in beef, and so if you don't cook your beef properly and you do all this medium rare, please go back and
is maggot a kind of worm?
Maggots. So maggots aren't worms actually. So they are just a phase in the life cycle of certain insects. They are the larval stage of certain insects. So maggots would refer to the larval stage of the housefly, of the common domesticated. And some people have the housefly in their house is domesticated. So the housefly, the common housefly, that's a maggot. But no, maggots are not technically worms. No, they're insects.
So are they equally as dangerous as worms? Would you say that?
No.
Not exactly.
They're nice, actually.
I pretend I didn't hear that. So besides the maggots inside the beef, which sometimes you can actually find inside your dry fish, those black dry fish, you don't get to wash well, you find them inside.
Yes, inside.
You're saying you can actually find worms inside your beef, your raw beef.
Yeah, yes. So worm eggs.
Eggs, okay?
Yes, the eggs. You're very unlikely to find a live worm inside the beef. If you do, please, run away from that abattoir. Yes, but the eggs might actually be living inside the beef.
Okay, so on the surface level, what can kill a worm?
On the surface level.
Yes.
That. Say we should match it.
Can you just? I was going to say warm up. Okay, so yeah, for instance, when I say surface level, I mean the eggs, not the worm itself. Sorry.
Okay.
Like the beef, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So high temperatures. So that's as for the beef, right? So very high temperatures will kill the eggs. So the eggs are denatured essentially. The eggs, their coating and the casing of the eggs is actually what's the word, disrupted by cooking significant heat, and so that's why we always emphasize pork, especially pork as well. Pork as well, those that eat pork.
What do you regard to as significant heat? Because I mean, boiling the meat or I don't think there's any person out there who doesn't boil.
No,
the
please
meat,
don't say it. Oh, don't say it again. That doesn't boil. You don't see all these people that go to this restaurant and say that, please, I want medium rare, I want rare, and then they will cut it like this. Medium rare,
like steak,
medium rare beef, like
Some
steak.
people they want an
A
element
little bit of
rawness.
Okay, so
red.
while I get that, my point is it's exposed to heat one way or the other. But it would seem like you need a certain level of heat to actually kill this one.
Yeah.
With this
What
egg.
which more level of heat are you looking for in this Nigeria? After they have finished boiling it, then they will now go and fry it. Then they will still put it inside the stew. There is no level of
So
heat.
boiling the meat kills the eggs.
Yes, boiling the meat. So you boil the meat as in the way we boil our meat here. Yes, so you boil. Then by the time you boil, the eggs are dead. Really, exactly. So, but here we don't stop at boiling. We make sure that if the cow did not go to air fire, we send the cow to air fire inside our pots.
Is it possible for worms to be in fruits?
In fruits, so
Did you not just say that
so
with
not
carrots?
so no. So that those are the eggs.
Eggs. Oh.
Those are the eggs.
Okay.
Most of these worms, they to move from the
egg
egg stage
stage.
to the adult stage, they need to be inside the living host. So the soil stage is just for them to be able to transmit themselves from one point to the next.
Okay.
But for the worms that you find in fruits, those aren't worms either. Those again are the what's it called, the larval stage of some insect, a wasp or some insect, maybe not a wasp, because wasps actually don't leave their larval stages lying around. But if you find any creepy crawly inside a fruit, it's most likely an insect. Yeah, but fortunately the earthworm doesn't infest human beings.
Okay, so what of ringworm? Is it part of this worms?
Which one?
Ringworm.
Ringworm? No. Ringworm is a fungal skin infection. I don't know why it's called a ringworm though. Very interesting nomenclature, but no, it's not a worm in this true sense of it. It's a fungal infection, and it's because it just forms a ring on people's head. That's why they call it ringworm, I guess.
Okay. 92.3 Inspiration FM is where you're at, and the show is Your Baby and You, which means we're talking you, and your baby, and your babies. We're talking about worms, okay? Worms, like, I mean, and I said at the beginning of the show that when it came to our parents, like generations before, they seem to have, it was like, I'm not sure I ever heard it called or referred to as deworming. All I knew was that yes, they were trying to get rid of worms. So now you hear deworming, you hear things like that. But then they say, we want to kill this thing, and it's either they're piercing things, through your bum, or they're giving you some sort of, mixture and concussions, and you just wonder what kind of suffering and stuff ahead is this kind of thing. But these days, they're just very different ways of tackling it. But if you have some concerns around worms, please be a part of the conversation, okay? As a parent, as an aunt, as an uncle that you are, as a caregiver, a guardian, the number to call is 0700 923 923 923. That's the number to call. On WhatsApp is 0817 313 6193. What peers, concerns, questions do you have around the topic today? Worms. Okay, I guess we have a message.
Yes.
This is Emma, my goodness, I thought of you, like you've been on my mind the last couple, like the Honor Book Club has not been the same without you, but it's good to hear from you. So this is Emma from Abuleg, but my question is, can the presence of worms in the body cause a child to lose weight or lose appetite? I miss you too, darling.
No, yes, I mean that is a very real possibility.
Question, yeah.
Yes. So worms can actually cause in toddlers or children to actually lose weight because it reduces their appetite as well. And
Okay.
once the appetite is reduced, food intake will reduce, and then that also leads to weight loss. And then it can also cause things like fatigue, weakness, abdominal cramps, chronic diarrhea. That means that the child will have watery stool, and it will occur for quite a long time, and so that would also cause a lot of dehydration. And once a child is ill, really the appetite just becomes suppressed. So it is a real possibility, and there are even some sort of species of worm they call hookworm, and hookworms, they just latch onto the intestinal wall with their hooks. They are, vicious hooks, and what they do is that they suck blood.
What?
Yes, they suck blood. They actually latch onto a blood vessel and they begin to just suck minute quantities of blood. But if they are significant enough, I mean they are many enough, and they usually are, then that leads to what we call anemia. That's a low blood or low hemoglobin level in the body or the system, and that can actually lead to poor appetite and general weight loss and illness. Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna take a break right now. I need to breathe. Okay. I mean, there's just so much warm in the air right now. So please, let's just take a break. It's really hard to talk about worms when you haven't had food, and so every single churn in your belly is just seemingly, what it is that's in your head right now.
True.
So we're gonna take a break. Okay, I'll be back.
Later.
Worms. We're still talking worms. 0700 923 923 923. That's the number to call. Have you suffered from worms lately?
What happened?
Worms.
Woman.
Is there?
I say one woman.
I won't.
Add is 24 seconds.
I didn't get that.
The ad is only 24 seconds.
Yeah, no, duh. Okay, I think. No, okay, I don't know. Now that's it. They spread it. Oh, gosh.
Wormy.
What else are we touching on?
I'll take one. Is it
Treatment.
because I'm eating too much? Because I have a big appetite, doesn't mean I'm having take one.
Are they eating the food?
Am I what?
Are they eating the food? As the worms.
She lived with the tribes, learned their language and traditions, earning their respect, and one of the most memorable achievements was to put an end to the killing of twins in Nigeria. When southern Nigeria became a British protectorate, she became the first
Can we look at
ever
other
female
things that
magistrate in the
could
British
cause
Empire, and
worms
is
in
still
children?
diplomatic
That's essentially it. So that's what.
Just a woman. Inspiration FM, more than just a radio station. And we're back to the program.
All right.
Okay.
You ready?
Alright, it's 25 minutes. Going past the hour of 11. We have 5 minutes before the headline news, and we step aside for that, and of course we make a return. But yes, let's make good use of the 4 minutes now that we have. Your baby and you, and we're still talking worms. What questions do you have around the topic worms? Let us know. The number is 0700 923 923 923. When was the last time you treated your child of what?
Wormy.
Deworming.
Pending worms. Oh yes, as they call it, deworming. When was the last time that you dewormed your child? How did you go about it? How often should we deworm
So
our children?
my people on Instagram are actually asking this question, and they ask me quite a lot. So first of all, you should start deworming a child from the age of 1 year. So
Okay.
1 year is when WHO recommends that children be dewormed. If there's, I think that's maybe we shall, that word. I think that word is a Nigerian word. Really,
Deworming, right?
Deworm. I beg check am. Deworm. Deworming.
No, it actually exists. I
Let me
saw
see.
it.
Deworming.
It's-
I saw that because our population is a lot, so we use the word plenty on the internet. The internet had to just fix the word in. But yes, okay. So deworming is an actual word.
It's a
Okay.
word, yeah.
So deworming should be done from the age of 1 year, and depending on how many worms there are in your environment, it can be done either every 6 months or every 1 year. Now, what WHO says is that if the prevalence of worms in your environment is between 20 and 50%, meaning that 20 to 50% of children below the age of, they actually give these recommendations up to 14 years. If individuals below the age of 14 years, you test their stool and 50% of them, less than 50%, between 20 and 50% of them have eggs of worms in their stool, then in that environment, you should deworm every year, annually.
Okay, and
But
if not?
if you test and it is more than 50% of the individuals that have it, you have to deworm every 6 months. Now you now ask yourself, within this very Lagos, and I've talked about this before, that somebody that lives on Body Lawn and somebody that lives in my own area, quite frankly, the prevalence of worms in those children that live on Body Lawn might not really be the same as those that live in Idiaraba, quite frankly, because in Body Lawn you can be sure that they are probably have access to clean water, they're probably washing their hands with soap and water, they're probably getting their food from the farmers market, and nice things like that. But in Idiaraba, if the food drops inside the gutter, they can pick it up and see it again. So you do know that if I was seeing a patient and they told me that they stayed in the Diaraba, and I just because socioeconomic status actually determines a lot about how the approach that you will take to treat individuals. I would deworm the child from the Diaraba every 6 months. Yeah, every 6 months. That one, I would do that every 6 months. But for the child that stays in Ikoyi, that stays in VI, I can say every year. I saw somebody ask me that, my child is 4 years old and he has never been dewormed. I think you should actually deworm your child, but for you can do it every year. Actually, you don't need to do it more often than every year. So, but then again, we'll talk about prevention.
Yes, prevention, and what most appropriately, should you use to deworm your child or your children? Because the lowest. Of worms that there are, the different ways you can actually contract worms, okay, or transfer worms from yourself as an adult to your children. Okay, before we went on the headline news and the break, we had said when we come back we'll be talking about prevention, the different ways of actually meeting out deworming, okay, as it's popularly used, and the myth around children having lots of sweets and needing to be dewormed only. This time we take a different route and we say, yes, Isabu. What is that?
Okay, sorry, before I address that question, I'm here on Instagram Live. I can see quite a handful of people saying that, there are some schools that end up deworming the kids in the school every 3 months.
Yeah.
And, every 3 months is frequent. Every 3 months is quite frequent. I can understand if you want to be extremely cautious here in Nigeria, that you want to deworm your child every 6 months. You are fine to do it every 6 months. Every 3 months just seems a bit, too frequent, yes, in my mind.
Okay.
Especially if you institute these preventive measures that I'm going to presently outline.
Okay.
So 1, make sure that all fruits and vegetables that you buy are thoroughly washed and cleaned properly. So if you need to use salt, if you need to soak it in vinegar, whatever, just make sure that you are cleansing or cleaning, especially fruits and vegetables that you're going to eat raw. So things like lettuce, make sure that you have washed the lettuce and all the sand, and then even still soak it in or wash it in vinegar soaked water. Make sure that you are washing fruits and vegetables thoroughly before you offer them, especially if they are raw, to your child to eat. 2, make sure that you are washing your hands with soap and water thoroughly. After using the toilet and before preparing food for your child or for the person that you're taking care of. Please make sure that your nails are clipped to as short as possible. I know that in this era of acrylic local nails, so I guess you can manage that if you think that you can actually keep the under of the nails clean enough. But please make sure that you are cleaning the under of your nails. Your nails are kept short. That's the best thing. Also, make sure that the nails of your children are also kept short, because sometimes they'll go and play in sand or play with soil, and then they have germs under their nails, and the eggs of these worms under their nails. And even though you have washed the fruits properly, they will actually pick up those fruits with their dirty hands and the nails, that contain the germs, and they'll just lick it, and so the worm eggs, and they'll lick it, and then they will get infested. So keep their nails short. Make sure that they are also washing their hands. Teach them good hygiene. Unfortunately, the broader question of general I was going to say sanitization. environmental sanitation, yes, hygiene in the environment needs to be the responsibility of everyone, but we need to advocate for the governments even at the local level to say that are the gutters being cleaned, how are we disposing of human waste, what are we doing with fertilizers, soil, how are we keeping the soil clean and healthy, open defecation, how are we tackling that? So things like that, overcrowding in houses, so things like that need to be addressed. And of course, if one family member has been proven to have worms, all the family members need to be treated. All the family members need to be treated, because you are sure that if unless that one person is a renegade and is always going out to go and eat stuff, all family members should be treated. When you are cooking food, please make sure that beef or pork or whatever it is cooked, boiled. By the time you boil it to the extent that it's actually well done, and well done means that you're not seeing any red, there's no blood, then the worms in the or in the beef or in the food will actually be dead. So the eggs of the worms, yes, will actually be dead. So those are some of the preventive measures. Yes, so agbo jadi jadi. Now, the idea that when children eat a lot of sweet things, yes, there's wisdom in the fact that when children eat a lot of sugary things, it causes diarrhea. It actually makes them. It's called an osmotic diarrhea, such that sugar has a tendency to pull water to itself. So when you take a lot of sugary stuff, water is pulled from your intestine into the lumen, that's into the pipe of the intestine, and so the stool becomes watery. But of course, now in terms of the agbo, these agbos are usually bitter. So people imagine that once you give something bitter, it will counteract the sweetness, and so. But meanwhile, it's not really true, because all that needed to happen was that the sugar needed to just absorb the amount of liquid that it required to just pass itself out, and once it goes, the diarrhea stops. But because they administer the agbo as soon as they realize that is happening, they feel like agbo yoshishe. Meanwhile, if they hadn't given anything, the child would have stopped stooling. So agbo jadi, herbal concoctions for our more international audience. So herbal concoctions don't really work for osmotic diarrhea.
So there's no attribute whatsoever, of sugar to worms.
No, they're not related in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, let's take a call. Hello, good morning. Okay, we lost it. We have a couple of minutes before the show is over, so please do try to call us back at 0700-923-923-923. We have a call?
Yeah, baby. So in a situation, let's look at tapeworms, for instance. Tapeworms are known to, like we say, if you see a child that's eating too much, you say, this child has a tapeworm. So how would you differentiate between a child has a big appetite or there's a tapeworm within the child?
So here, let me extend it. So what they say is that a child who is eating a lot but not adding weight has tapeworm. Very unlikely. So that's a huge assumption to think that because the child is eating a lot and not gaining weight. As a matter of fact, I'd be more worried to look out for other causes of why the child is actually not gaining weight, because unless the tapeworm has infested the whole intestine, it's very unlikely that a tapeworm will actually make a child to. If anything, what a worm would do is that a worm will actually depress the appetite of the child. So if you're thinking a child has a huge appetite, is eating all the food in the world and is not gaining weight, look for another cause. It's very unlikely to be a worm. Another thing that I get quite a lot is that this child's tummy is very big. It's very big. Ton. That this child has a worm. I said, no. Also, any worm that is a population of worms large enough to make a child's tummy distend will make the child so ill that the child is not going to be playing around and running around. So if a child's tummy is big, sometimes children just have big tummy. But if you think that it's a concern for you, please go to the hospital and then consult your physician. They might ask for a scan or whatever.
Okay, so let's look at some. You have something else you want to come through it?
Yes. So some time back, you mentioned earlier when you started the show, you mentioned the story of the boy who was throwing up worms. Now, my sister, it came out the other way.
Oh.
So is there any difference? Is that showing that a different type of worm or a different way in expression or something?
No. So what?
Expressive worms.
So yeah, exactly. So what would happen if you are pulling out worms? Just doesn't make it sound right.
This one was even one. she was on the toilet and then she felt a movement.
Movement, yes.
She felt a movement
And then she
I've been scarred ever since.
and then she saw it there. So if you pull out a worm, that also is not terribly unusual. It just says that really the worms are well many enough for them to be passed out alive, so to say. So, but it doesn't really say that the illness is severe. It doesn't really say anything to the severity of the illness. Even though that vomiting one alarmed me, and he did have quite a large worm body. But worms coming out the other way, that's really is far more frequent and far more common than worms being thrown up. So no, it's not a big deal, but it does mean that the person needs to be treated for that worm infestation.
Okay, what do you say to some person, because I'm not aware of such drugs, but it would seem like there's some drugs out there. They would say if you take this particular one, this particular drug or medication, the worms die, or it gets persist or something before it comes out in your poop. And then if you take this particular medication, they come out alive. And then so they give you a choice. Okay, so do you want to drink this one?
To come out alive?
Do you want to take this one? So they just all just flush out.
Flush out. Okay.
Are there
I've heard
drugs like that?
I've heard that before. That so some will just kill the worms,
Yes,
and you will see them, and some
Is there anything like that?
no. There isn't. It's not real. I'm not aware that there's anyone that will selectively make the worm come out alive, and that will leave the other ones will just leave the worm dead inside. So no. Quite frankly, I'm not aware that there are drugs that have that selective capability. But then again, okay, I beg, Google it. Google it for us, because I'm not sure. I've definitely heard that before, but in the entire medical school, they never told us anything like that. And I attended all the lecture except the one on
Is there a
indigenation.
similar advantage to worms actually coming out alive to them being dead inside your system?
No, there isn't. It's just that sometimes when worms infest an individual, and this is theoretical. It's not. I mean, I'm not sure I really read it anyway. But now this is real. That worms can actually trigger allergies. Okay. So if a person has a worm infestation and has a tendency to have allergies, they can actually have things like itching, things like hives, just allergy symptoms. But the simple answer to the question is that I'm not aware that if there's such a drug, if such a drug existed, that there'd be any real advantage to having one make the worm come out alive and then the other one kill the worm inside. Yes. So, but then again, if you do know that, because sometimes worms require surgical intervention, such that if there are plenty enough, again, to say that this worm is causing intestinal obstruction, they might need to actually open up the abdomen and then extract the worms manually.
Okay, so let's look at treatment quickly before we go.
So treatment usually is...
Okay, sorry, before you go into that proper. It would seem like some people make a mistake between a deworming medication and laxatives.
Why would they?
Yeah, because laxatives, they make you purge, right?
And
yes, and some people think that deworming drugs should actually also make you purge and purge out the worms. What's the clear difference between the two?
No. So laxatives do.
Do you necessarily purge?
No, you don't.
After taking a deworming medication?
No, you don't. You don't have loose or watery stools after taking the deworming medication. No. So that's a misconception. So deworming medication doesn't flush the system, doesn't make you purge. So
what does it do exactly?
It just kills the worm. It just kills the worm. Yes, inside of your body. No. So
that's why people are looking for the drug that will send it out alive.
Eventually, I guess maybe it gives them some sort of comfort to see that the worm has come out. So
I'm free.
But some of these worms, they are quite small, and they are not really in the full adult stage yet, and so some of them, they will just be embedded inside the poo, and you might not really see them, but eventually all of them are passed out in the feces, quite frankly. All of them are passed out in the feces. So whether they are alive or dead, sometimes you'll see them, sometimes you won't. So it's not a sine qua non. So please, if you're taking the worm medication and you didn't see the worm come out of your poo, it doesn't mean that it didn't work. It worked. It just didn't work the way you're expecting it to. So you don't have to have diarrhea or to purge before. Now, in terms of treatments, treating worms, there are drugs that are very effective for treating worms, and so we have different types. We have mebendazole, we have albendazole, and of course I can't call any brand names here, but it's just and usually they're over the counter. You don't even need a prescription to actually go and get them. They are usually over the, or no, is that right? No, so they are not over the counter. You do need a prescription. Sorry, you need a prescription to get those, but yeah. So get a prescription from your doctor and get the deworming medication. And for the specific type that you will require, please speak to your physician to know which one is required, especially for the deworming. So your six monthly deworming exercise.
Okay, you want to come through it?
Yeah, are there side effects to deworming? Taking deworming.
Oh yes, so yeah. So there are side effects to taking deworming medication. Sometimes you can have abdominal pain, you can have cramps, vomiting, headaches, sometimes a skin rash, very annoying skin rash. So as with all medication, really, yes, there are side effects. But fortunately, most deworming medications are quite safe. That's not to say that you should leave them lying around in the presence of children, because even though they are safe, most of them are quite tasty as well. Except one that we used to use as children, it was vile as sin. Thank God I've not seen it since then. But yes, usually they are quite safe. They are quite tasty as well.
Okay, my Debbie, anything else that you want to put up there before we take a walk?
Sorry. Somebody's asking. So do you? So somebody has so worm infestation on Instagram. Worm infestations can actually affect adults. Yes, adults can be infested by worms and it can disturb them. And do you keep deworming as an adult? As an adult, quite frankly, I have probably not dewormed in the last 2 years, which should not be. I should actually deworm annually. So as an adult, yes, it is wise for you to keep on deworming as long as you are eating shawarma, because you really don't know how they're washing their levers and their carriage for the shawarma. So as long as you're eating all those things, my dear, please deworm annually, even as an adult. Even though you're not my constituency, you should go and face your physicians. But that being said, when it comes to worms, my advice is prevention is better than cure. It's teaching time. Save 92.3. So,
All right, for more inquiries, questions, fears, or concerns, you can actually reach out to Dr. Renner on his social media handles. You want to call it out?
yes, so on Instagram is at the noisy Niger Pediatrician. Once you just put the noisy THENOISY, Niger Pediatrician will just come out. I've become that notorious on the Instagram. And then on Twitter, it's at the noisy Niger P1.
Yeah, just so you know, that's the level notorious before you get verified. All right.